Oh, see that, we gotta, how do we fix that clock? Because, all right, everyone, we are at 3:01 unintentionally. I've been watching the clock in the room, which is off by a few minutes. And we will call our Human Rights Commission meeting of Monday, April 8, 2019 to order at 3:01 p.m. To start us off, who would like to read the mission statement? How about our new commissioner? Did you read it last time, Commissioner Flood?
I did not read it last time, no.
All right,
I'll be
well,
glad to read
I
it.
invite you to read it for us this time.
I'll do
The
that.
first paragraph, you see it there?
Yes, I do. The mission of the Palm Springs Human Rights Commission is to promote and protect the diversity of our community and to improve human relations through education and community awareness.
Beautiful, thank you. And Dale, we have...
You have a quorum.
We have a quorum. Now we move into item 4, public comments. Any person who wishes to speak on a topic within the city's jurisdiction during this portion of the agenda must file a speaker card with a staff liaison before this portion of the agenda is called. Although the commission values your comments pursuant to the Brown Act, it generally cannot take any action on items not listed on the posted agenda. Commissioners will not enter into discussion with speakers, but during commission comments may refer the matter to staff for report and recommendation at a future commission meeting. And today we have one card that has been submitted by Dr. Spinella, who is going to be sharing some information with us on the legacy wall that is coming to Palm Springs from Chicago. Welcome.
Thank you. Now I'm on. Hi, I'm Dr. Jerry Spinella, and it's a real pleasure to meet with the Human Rights Commission. We are bringing the legacy wall to Palm Springs at the end of October, the beginning of November. And the legacy wall is a wall of several hundred GLBT biographies, many of them that are featured from the Legacy Walk, which is in Chicago. And in a collaborative vision, it's to talk about the LGBT contributions that they have made to society. And we are also, and I think that Dale has made copies of this for you. But basically, it is a wall that's going to be displayed at the Chase Bank, and it's also going to be displayed at Palm Springs Library. And we're reaching out to you as a commission for your collaboration and support of this particular venture. It's going to be here. It's traveled all around the country. We've been at 30 different sites already. And we think it's a really good opportunity to have it in Palm Springs because we know that there is hopefully a tremendous support of education that we need to have. And also we're going to be collaborating with the Tolerance Center in Rancho Mirage, as well as the Palm Springs Library and hopefully the Palm Springs School. So basically, this information also has a website that can show you directly who's being featured on the particular wall. And I'm the education coordinator. So many years ago, I got together with the executive creator, Victor Salvo, and a committee in Chicago, and we decided that it was about time that we would show LGBT contributors and have a walk in Chicago that has been really received applaud from the city of Chicago. It's an historical land site. Land site, where it's going to be really something there. But we figured that this particular wall is really valuable, so we wanted to say that we're going to travel with it. And so it's been to these sites, and there's people that are featured every place from Jane Addams to Walt Whitman, and there's historical milestones like the Stonewall Riot and the Pink Triangle and other things. So I'll pass this around to you if this is okay. And if you have any questions, I would be delighted to answer them. Not today, but in the future, I guess.
When is it coming?
It's going to be coming at the end of October, October 22nd. It'll be here till November 26th. What we're trying to do also is to reach out also to the Palm Springs Art Museum, because I know that there's going to be an exhibit there, too. Jim?
Hi, thank you. Thank you for bringing that to our attention. You've actually been aware of the wall and very supportive and glad to have you offer that as an opportunity. My question today is this. What is fortuitous, and I suppose it's not entirely by accident, of course, is the dates you have in mind for the exhibition are a part of, or would include, our Gay Pride Week here.
Definitely.
Yes,
Definitely.
I didn't think there was a coincidence there. But in light of that, and how much I think this is such a great idea, I'm wondering, maybe I'll even look a little bit in Dale's direction to see if this is just totally out there, if maybe this could not be some part of the actual, I don't know quite what to call downtown center, downtown plaza, whatever. Like, you know, I was noticing over the weekend, I had family in town, and we were at the new Starbucks. There's a lot of, this doesn't look to be a very large wall. Am I right about how long?
Well, you can see.
How long?
40 feet.
40 feet. So,
And you know what, it's going to be open, Jim, that particular day at the Chase Bank, where we're going to also invite GSA, student organizations, as well as other school districts, as well as anybody who would like to see the wall. It is free to see.
right. And so here's kind of the point of my suggestion. To me, it would have so much more impact if it was like right square downtown, in the middle of downtown. And the downtown plaza would just seem, from a size and logistics thing, that it could accommodate it, but also for the importance of the subject matter and all the rest of it. I'd love to see it in a more central location. Not that there's anything terribly wrong with the Chase Bank,
Right.
but
Well, Jim,
anyway.
I'll take that back to Mr. Salvo.
Okay.
I know he's already signed a contract with the bank.
I know he has.
Oh, I see.
One other question. How else, you asked for the commission's support and collaboration, so how else can we do that?
Well, basically, we could definitely use financial support of this, because this project will be about $30,000 to bring from Chicago here, and also just to really receive recognition from the Human Rights Commission as this being a site that is sponsored by the city of Palm Springs. I'm not real sure how that would work, but that would really benefit not only you, but benefit other people to come and see it, which is really, the more publicity that we would get, the better it would be.
Okay. Thank you.
We took the liberty of asking a few questions, because obviously there's not a big line of folks standing behind you today, so we had the time to do that. So thank you, and
Thank you.
thanks to Victor for leading the effort, and all the community residents that are standing behind it to come and make it happen, because I know it's a fairly large
It is a fairly
group of
large,
folks that are coming
right.
to the table to make it possible.
Well, thank you very much
We
for your
appreciate it.
time.
Thank you.
Congratulations on your new mayor. We're very happy.
Okay, next up, we have approval of minutes. We've got a couple minutes that are on the table today, February 11 and March 11. Both those minutes were sent out in our packet. Do we have a motion to,
I'd like to motion to approve.
second by,
I'll second.
all in,
And the motion is for both sets of minutes, is that right?
for both the February 11 and March 11? All in favor?
Well, I do have one, if we're at discussion right after.
We can, if you'd like to.
Yes, hold on here a second. Well, it's just a notation, it's not a real problem with the minutes, but I did note, probably more of a question to you, Jake, is the minutes reflect from the
Dale?
March 11 meeting that the CVRA report would be distributed? And I don't believe that's happened, has it?
Yes, it was, it was,
And I missed it, okay. Then that,
and let's confirm your email address.
I don't know what it is, but at least it's not an issue with the minutes or anything.
Yes, just shortly after, the city clerk's office shared that, and
Yeah.
I did distribute it to the commission members.
Okay, great. Okay, well then, my question is resolved.
I have a question. I wasn't here for the February meeting, so I really can't vote on that. I was here for the March meeting, though.
You can abstain.
I will do,
Break it into two motions.
We can do that. So if,
I would like to motion to approve the minutes for February.
I'll second.
Well, technically, you need to withdraw your first, well, no, but.
We never-
You
we
need to
never-
remove your
we-
first motion, that's put in your new motion. Yeah, that's up.
we never move forward on it. So we've got a motion on the floor to approve the February 11th minutes, seconded by Commissioner Miccio. All in favor of approving the February 11th minutes as submitted, please say aye.
Aye.
I ask for a motion on the floor to approve the March 11th minutes.
I'll motion to approve the March minutes.
And second,
I'll second.
we got a double repeat there. Any discussion on the minutes? Good. All in favor?
aye.
And any opposed and abstentions? I didn't ask for abstentions the first time around, but we got Commissioner Flood abstended
Excellent.
from the February 11
Thank you.
vote. Thank you. Okay, we're good on that. Thank you very much. Item 6, Commissioner, Staff, and Student comments. We can start around on the other end of the table. Commissioner Flood, do you have any comments you'd like to make as we start the meeting?
There was a question about the next fundraiser. You said it was going to be in October or something like that, I think. We haven't decided yet, but I just want to bring to think about maybe the American Legion or in the big picture, the veterans in the area, especially the homeless veterans. Is there something we could do down the road to look at that possibility? I'm also a member of the American Legion, so maybe that's one of the reasons why I'm bringing it up. That's all I have right now.
Excellent. And your nameplate looks very nice at
Very
the
official.
first meeting. Congratulations. Coming around the table.
Okay. First, I would like to thank Nikki and Ryan and everybody for the movie. The movie night was amazing. It was just amazing. The attendance was amazing. The movie itself was. I was just very, very proud of us as a group and my co-commissioners. So definitely something I think we should do again. And you're right, it does take a lot of planning. You guys threw that together really fast, but a little more time I'm sure would be really welcomed. And then also to Commissioner Chappelle and to Ryan for coming to the 1 PS picnic. We had a nice little table and enjoyed ourselves and interfaced with a lot of people there, got some ideas. We put out a little thing that said, what would you like to see the commission address? And so we got a bit of feedback on that. And then also, there were two comments I heard most often. Number one was that people didn't know we even existed. They said we didn't know Palm Springs had a Human Rights Commission. And I'm just gonna take a little comedic license here. The second comment was, your pens don't work. So we got to get new pens, guys. The flashlights didn't work, or the ink didn't work, or something, and people brought them back to us. So, but anyways, again, that was just a little bit of fun. We had a great time. It was a great picnic. It was well attended. Thank you.
No comment.
The only comment I have, I mentioned under, at the end of our last meeting when we do general comments, I mentioned that NUSA is coming up. That's Neighborhoods USA, which is coming up the 15th through the 18th. And I invited you to take a look at that perhaps online, because I see a lot of program value there that we could use in our work here in the commission. I think we as commissioners would learn a lot. I've also, and this is what is new today, I've had a chat with Denise Goolsby, who's the city coordinator for NUSA overall. And it looks like we can probably get a couple of registration passes. So I would certainly enjoy the opportunity to use one of those, but I would also invite, if there's other interest.
I'm interested.
Okay, well then that also draws another aspect too, which is that NUSA is the city on behalf of the NUSA convention, on behalf of the city, is going to need a lot of volunteers, and we're still short of volunteers. So I don't know this, but I suspect if anybody here was interested in volunteering to help with the event, then perhaps there will be some consideration as well. So that might be another way to not only participate there, but also get the registration covered for you guys. No matter what, it's a very inexpensive registration at $225, but I highly recommend it. And look at the link. I won't go on all the technical details. Did you? You included it? Oh, thank you, Jay. Well, then look at the link that Jay provided, and you get a feel for that. So, I guess, I don't know if we need a formal motion, or or do we have consensus that Nikki and I should have
during comment.
these? And I may be able to too. If what we're getting here is a wave of enthusiasm, I may be able to conjure up another one or two. I don't know. It's kind of left informal that sure, we probably come up with a couple for the commission.
It's on the agenda later on, Jim, so we'll come back. Whoops,
Okay, we'll come back to
it.
that. Okay.
And be able to, if we need a motion, be able to address it then. Okay?
No comment at this time.
I'll save most of mine for the committee updates, but just wanted to say welcome to our new commissioner, Flood. So welcome, good to see you.
Thank you very much. So good to be here.
Yeah.
And I will echo what our Commissioner Andrade had said about the 1PS turnout, a great showing, very good-looking staffing table there, and the tent and the tablecloth, everything looked fabulous. So good job with that at the picnic. And hearty congratulations for the film. I think it was a great turnout, 170 some odd seats. Congratulations on that, and to the beneficiary, the center, for receiving those funds. So good work on that, long in coming. And it was some things do take a little bit of time, but they pay off in the end. So thank you for sticking with it. And thank you to Terry for showing up and participating in the city's inaugural Cesar Chavez breakfast that happened on the 30th. So that was, it was nice to have her representation there. And that's it for me. Dale? Okay, now we have seven items for discussion and our vote. 7A, master calendar. Bum. Who would like to take that on? Commissioners Andrade and Michio.
There's really no updates to the calendar or anything to discuss at the time.
Okay. That was the simplest, fastest master calendar update we've ever had.
Let's do them all like that.
Next up, community outreach and marketing.
I can start with obviously our movie event, rundown of that. So we had a total of about 180 tickets sold. Of course, we were aiming to try to fill the capacity of the large theater of, the 400 to 500 seats, but we didn't quite get there. But we got near close to half, and so the gross sales on the event was just over $3,000. And then one of the things I didn't account for in one of my initial reports to some of you was Eventbrite takes 2% of those sales, so we forgot to account for that. I didn't necessarily forget to account for that. It was just that the Palm Springs Cultural Center wasn't very speedy in their response to me, so I just got excited to report, and I didn't let them tell me that yet. So we will be receiving $1,123.95 to our commission, and then the center will receive the same amount of money. So the center is working with the Cultural Center to get that money to them, and then I've asked Dale to help us figure out the procedure or the process to funnel that money into our commission's budget. So we'll thank Dale for helping us with that. So couldn't have done it without Nikki Randolph and her idea and enthusiasm. So thank you for, kind of being co-captain with me on this. It was a real pleasure to work with you. And hopefully now we have a really awesome event that we can push the repeat button for. So with that, I'll give it over to Nikki for any other comment.
Well, I also want to point out that other than the $25 cost of 2 cases of water and fizzy water for the VIP party, we virtually had no other costs, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So that was quite a coup too, to get people to some food. Your dad gave us some food, your stepdad.
Yeah.
So that was very helpful to keep the profit level up.
Yeah, so yeah, any questions or comments about the movie? Oh, Dale, you want to show? Oh, God, the interview. So Dale wants to show my interview that Nikki roped me into.
There was a choice, should I go do it or should Ryan
you-
go do it? But it was at 6 a.m. in the morning.
So here's
And
a
you
little
had to get
interesting-
dressed up.
No, you did a great job.
Welcome back. Coming out, A 50-Year History is an important documentary about LGBTQ history. It's being shown tonight at a special screening to benefit the Palm Springs Human Rights Commission and the LGBT Center of the Desert. Joining us today to talk more about it is Human Rights Commissioner Ryan Michio. Good morning, Mr. Ryan.
Hi, Manny, how are you?
I am wonderful. Thank you so much. Why pick Coming Out, A 50-Year History for a special screening tonight?
So the Human Rights Commission has decided to establish a legacy fundraiser event where we're going to screen different films that relate to different community partners throughout Palm Springs. And so Coming Out, A 50-Year History is the first one we chose, and it made sense to partner with the LGBT Center of the Desert.
So tell us what the documentary is all about for our viewers.
The documentary focuses on coming out stories over the last 50 years.
Yeah.
And it's narrated by transgender teen activist Jazz Jennings. And it focuses on young people interviewing their elders, and they're telling their stories of their coming out from the 1950s to today. And it focuses on what social and cultural issues were happening at the time and how it relates to their personal stories.
I love the documentary. It's part his history, and it's also part a personal narrative for all these teenagers, right? It's an eye-opening experience. So tell us the main goal of the Palm Springs Human Rights Commission and how picking the 50-year history, Coming Out 50-Year History, and partnering with the Palm Springs, the Center of the Desert, LGBT Center of the Desert, help in getting that goal.
Sure. Well, the mission of the Palm Springs Human Rights Commission is to promote and protect the diversity of the folks living in our community, and to celebrate human rights through promoting community awareness and educational programs. And so it makes sense for us to try to raise the profile of the Center of the Desert, as well as what we're doing. And the beneficiary will be not only the center, but us to share those proceeds so that we can continue our joint programming.
That's great. So what can they expect tonight?
So tonight we've got a VIP reception featuring some special guests, including Mayor Robert Moon, Brian Gallo here from NBC, and the film's producer, Phil Schlegel, is coming from San Francisco to join us. And of course, Manny the movie guy is going to be narrating all the fun and excitement tonight. So there'll be some speeches by our special guests, and then the film screening will be an hour.
Oh, that is great. Can people still buy tickets?
They can. You can just go right to the box office at the Palm Springs Cultural Center and just buy a ticket right there.
That is great. So once again, you can join us tonight for a special screening of Coming Out, A 50-Year History at the Camelot Theaters in Palm Springs. You can still purchase tickets at the theater's box office. And now we have Mr. Jerry for weather.
Okay, so what I didn't know about that experience is that it would be on live TV. I thought that I would just go there and sit in front of some green screen. They'd ask me a few questions and then edit it later. But no, it was right there during the morning show. So hopefully I didn't sound too bad.
Well, your hair was fluffed and you look perfect. So.
What's that?
For 6 o'clock
6 in the morning, yeah, I'm not a morning
I
person.
just want to say I took two of my neighbors, and they thought it was really great.
Oh,
A
good.
good movie. So.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. So yeah, movie event success, done. And as Ron stated, you know, we, and Terry, we were able to go to the 1 PS picnic, which was a lot of fun, great engagement opportunity for those of us that were there. So thanks again, Terry, for organizing that. I suppose that falls under our group as well. So I think that's it for this committee, unless Terry, you wanted to add anything else, or Nikki.
I have one more thing.
Okay.
So let's not let any grass grow under our feet. So I want to immediately start talking about what community do we want to partner with next year. And I'd like to start looking for the appropriate movie and then get a date and put it on the master calendar so we aren't behind.
Yeah.
If we could put that on next month's agenda, yeah?
Just a thought. Now, the new Native American Museum and Cultural Center is opening next year. I'm wondering if we can
2020.
coincide a screening of a film to actually help raise funds and bring visibility to their new facility.
Yeah. Ron, would it be okay if we just asked everybody to, you know, think about that between now and the next meeting, and just we can come with those different ideas and they can include film suggestions as well as what community partner might make sense.
Yeah, and I think doesn't have to necessarily be an agenda item. The
Okay.
committee can bring it back. So
Yeah.
you bring
Okay.
the idea back to the commission saying, we would like to put forward
Yeah.
the whatever it might be.
Yeah.
As our suggested beneficiary for 2020.
Okay.
And then we'll vote on it.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be something that comes back to the table here.
And
You bring the decision to us.
Okay.
And then the other thing, as we said from the beginning, so now our budget has doubled once the money gets in there, so we'll have $1,000. And we need to discuss.
Where we're going to go
what-
shopping?
Yeah, well, what we're gonna use that for. I mean, definitely, I think we need to buy some pens. But, you know, I'm sure there are differing opinions about what we should spend that money on, so we should talk about it because it's true, right? At the end of the year, it all goes away?
No.
No? Oh, it can stay forever?
The only thing that does not roll over is the city's allocation, the
Right.
general fund allocation. You have spent that first. That's
Okay,
Yeah.
first in, first out.
That's
We
long
spend
gone.
that, yeah.
right.
And then any outside donations we receive, that's what I request to roll over. Also, as a reminder, I believe can't remember the exact meeting, we did consider the Harvey Milk sponsorship. It was initially 600, but if we had the resources, we would increase it to 1,000.
Right.
Having some of the preliminary numbers, I went ahead and forward sponsorship of 1,000.
Okay.
So that takes that portion. With that being said, there are 10 seats at the table. I'd like for you to tell me if you are available that date. It's May 15th, Wednesday, May 15th at 9:30 till 1. Or excuse me, 9:30 till 11. And I'll speak with you individually after the meeting and we can figure out if you're sitting at other tables or if you want to be able to sit at the human rights table.
Right. Yeah,
Thank
we
you.
can do that.
I had a question on expenditures. Have you thought about having name tags for each individual commissioner? So when we go out to these functions, they're visible. They can see us. Like you said, people didn't realize there was a Human Rights Commission. So maybe we got out with just a badge, Glenn Flood, Human Rights Commission, something like that,
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a big expenditure or something.
Your nameplates are versatile, so you can place them on.
Put it right. Okay, that'd be pretty big on my forehead too,
Just
maybe.
get a little
Okay.
chain, you can just hang them all.
Wait a minute, that's all I just
The
wanted to say.
commission in the past individually has purchased shirts and it has names. Now, if it's the desire to move away from that and do something of a pin-on name tag, other boards and commissions do that, so we can consider that as a part of the upcoming budget.
Yeah, so for things like that, I suspect that it would be a good idea for Nikki and I to solicit ideas just like that from the other commissioners that we can then update the budget, a proposal to the rest of us to discuss, and then the marketing and outreach committee should weigh in on that as well. Like, oh, we should buy more pens and we should buy name tags and we should, those sorts of things. I think those two committees can work together to update that for the full commission. Yeah.
So what's going to happen? So I think we need to get back to Nikki and say if marketing and outreach, if we want pins, tell Nikki we should order, or you'd like to request that we order 500 pins, whatever that number is. So then it can be done. It just needs to go back to committee. So the committee can come back, bring it back to the meeting. We don't need to keep waiting over and over. The funds are there, so you can make the decision to go ahead and do it. So whatever, let's identify, we know pins have been identified. And if it's name tags are $15. So if it's something that the commission feels good about, that I think would fall under our marketing outreach, maybe, we can just get those ordered.
Yeah.
So,
everyone needs to come to me with their ideas, so I
suggestions,
put it
yeah.
all in the mix, because I think we have way more ideas than we have money.
yeah.
But, yeah, please, tell me what you think.
Okay. Excellent,
As a
beautiful.
part of that, I will email everyone, and everyone promised to respond back.
Yeah.
So, yes.
That would be great. And then we should talk about it in our next.
Okay, next up,
marketing
Community
meeting.
Service
Or-
Awards, nothing to report there. Finance. Update.
We have $1,123.95 more.
Is that, but what is, we zeroed out the 2018, 19, or whatever the budget was? Is that zeroed out?
I'll have to get you the exact amount, but you did have some funds from prior fiscal year into this year, and there is a balance left in this year. And depending on when we want to make the purchases for the items that you've talked about earlier, we can move forward on that. So whatever funds have been donated or what you've raised will roll over to next year.
But we've expended all general fund monies.
For the most part, there may be some left, but not a large portion. I'll verify the amount.
Okay. So I think if there's any general fund money, then marketing should use that now.
Yeah.
Before end of June.
Yeah, we don't want to leave any money on the table.
Yeah.
And where are we in terms of city council's approval of an increase of budget for our commission?
The city council formally will adopt a budget before the end of this fiscal year, June 30th. They have begun the process for the budget. They're soliciting from the department heads and other departments, and I know that Councilmember Holstage has specifically requested an increase to human rights. And a dollar amount yet has been identified, but at least there's a sense that additional funds will be allocated.
And what was the budget that was submitted from the commission?
It was actually in the annual report. Do you remember what we placed in it?
Well, I know, but I was asking what everybody remembered.
No, we left everything as it was.
So $8,000, right? Something
Yeah.
like this?
Yeah,
So
I was
$8,000 was submitted. So it would be worthwhile now and through the month of April if everybody around the table makes that conversational topic with the commissioners on the finance committee with council. So make a mention to Commissioner Holstage, and who's the counterpart? No, budget.
It's Jeff Coors, isn't it?
No, there is no budget committee as such. The full council
Oh, full council.
participates in that.
So touch
but-
as many council members as possible with your strong recommendation for city council support of the $8,000 budget that was submitted for the 2021, or whatever the next cycle is.
1920.
1920 cycle, okay?
But now I'm a little confused because I thought, you said there was not an amount identified with Christie's observation that there.
She didn't identify an amount.
didn't identify.
We have submitted a budget of totaling $8,000 for council consideration. So everybody just needs to have those conversations. I've had the conversation with several, around the table, if we all are having those conversations, and just reiterating, $2,000 does not get anything accomplished with, anything that you would want to do with community outreach. So we've submitted that $8,000 figure, and if we could get their support, we'd appreciate it.
And the mayor has a vote on the budget as well, right?
Yeah.
Councilmember Hostage did mention having served on the commission, knowing the lesser funding amount that the commission has had, and that oftentimes our sponsorships exceeded nearly the allocation that we receive. So the desire was to certainly increase that amount. But the the annual report did not go forward to them until last month or month before last. That's who specified the $8,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, very good, thank you. Next up, student representatives update report. Commissioner Michio.
Sure.
please.
Well, so the only latest news on that is that we had someone from the high school reach out to us to let us know that one student was interested in our seat on the commission. So we have all encouraged that person to apply because we're basically just open for application at this point. So if we receive it officially, we'll review it as we would if it was more than one, and we'll do the interview and all that at whatever time that occurs. Is that kind of your guys' understanding as well. Yeah.
Have we heard anything else? Okay, excellent, beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, that's progress, so that's good.
That's right.
Yeah,
Okay.
So that's excellent.
My gosh, I should just end on a good note here.
Senior Expo Dependent Bill of Rights. Commissioner Gross, do we have any update there? I'm not aware of anything.
No, I'm not aware of any update. I do believe there's an open question, which is reflected in the minutes, which is that, are there any commissioners who wish to lead that? I reiterate, I'm glad to be a resource for that process going forward. As we noted and recorded in the minutes, I'm not stepping up to lead it again. But,
Yeah. And we didn't have any takers at the last meeting. Do we have any takers at this go-around to head up the expo, if there is to be an expo for 2020?
Well, my name's on the agenda, so I did offer to help. I don't know if I'm qualified to actually head it up, but thank you for your encouragement. But yeah, I'm happy to do that. I did have a question though, and I asked this once before, and I'm not certain that I came away with the answer that I was looking for. The extension that says the Adult Bill of Rights, Dependent Adult Bill of Rights, is that something that's supposed to come out of this activity, the Senior Expo? Is it supposed to result in an actual Bill of Rights, or again, help me out with that?
So the work from last year to this year is what's going to go forward in a report to council for a recommendation of whatever that may be. Council may take it forward and come up with a senior Bill of Rights for the city of Palm Springs. But we'll share our findings from the surveys, from the presentations, the briefings that we've had here at the commission and the CEO roundtable that we held. We'll share those findings with council, and then they'll be able to move it forward, and then we're done.
So we're not charged
We're
with
done with that effort that was our core focus for last year. So once that report goes to council, we're finished with it, unless council comes back and asks us to, pick it up.
Participate, okay, all right, thank you.
In some way, okay? So the expo would be something that, like the film festival or film screening, that the commission would pick up as something to do to be visible within the senior community to answer one of those issues that were brought forward to us, and that was connecting information with the user and how difficult it is to get information out into the community to those that need the information. And that the expo was one of the solutions on being able to create a forum where information can be disseminated to the community. So it could be, is it something that the commission says, yes, we'd like this to be an annual event, we would like to continue partnering on? And if it is, then that's what we would need someone to head up that effort on an ongoing basis with the Mizell, assuming, they want to continue.
Right. And did you get a commitment from Mizell?
No, we have not had that discussion yet. But in light of your interest, Terry, and I'm also looking for feedback from Ron and Dale, is that given, and thank you, for raising your hand, it might, I guess my thought is it might be worth an initial discussion with the new executive director there. Ginny Fote, as you probably know, has retired. And I forget the name of the gentleman who's the new executive director. I don't know that we're ready to make a commitment yet, but at least to have the discussion that there is interest and perhaps a couple, 3 potential dates, just get some of that initial kind of groundwork in place. Then we could bring that back here and make a decision, at least for this year's event. Does that make sense?
It does. And did they help with outreach and that type of thing? They did?
Yeah, that's the other thing why I'm kind of very encouraging for you, because I understand why that might appear a little more daunting than it really is. As far as I know, Suzanne Spencer, who's on the staff at Mizell, does have some interest, perhaps going forward. And it was an interesting time working with them, to put it that way. But at the same time, I have to say, is that they really did put a lot of effort into it. They really brought together a lot of the agencies on a positive basis that they're aware of. So this is not like, quite frankly, kind of what Nikki had to do, which is take something from scratch and build it up. There's a lot of support that's already in place. It's more like orchestrating rather than having to invent it.
Right. But this is a community service activity and not a fundraising. I mean, there's no revenue to be. Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay.
I just heard a lot of feedback that it was great that it was actually put together and it was great outreach, but a lot of the participants kind of wished that there was just more time instead of so much talking and introductions, that people could walk around and have more conversation
Right.
with the booths. And if there were more booths, more attendees as far as representing whatever organization or business.
Yeah, I observed that too, and also the fact that some of the presentations were going on at the same time as the conversations in the individual kiosks, if you will. So that's a little disturbing or distracting.
Yeah.
So.
Probably the only one, and it ties into this, the one kind of big issue that's kind of out there is whether or not commercial enterprises should be a part of it. And my view, quite frankly, is I think they should, and I think there's an opportunity there. And it's not fundraising, but at least to help absorb some of the cost. And I even had a couple of offers we weren't prepared to accept from businesses that do work with the senior community that want a disability.
That might underwrite some of the costs.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay.
So, yeah, I think this.
Right. Is
all
that
of
a
this is good
decision we
stuff.
get to make on our own, Dale, whether we have private or just public service?
I think it's a project of the commission, and you can have the discretion. Again, as the chair had said earlier, it's going to be on your interests to get with Mizell to evaluate last year. Is there some things that need to be refined?
Right.
And then as a committee, come back with those recommendations to the full commission.
Okay.
The format is whatever the leaders want it to be.
Okay.
So it could be all expo
Okay.
and one keynoter.
okay.
You know, it could be whatever
All right.
format.
Okay.
The feedback that's coming forward, I think, is wise, that to make it more of a true expo, less of talk.
Right.
you know.
Sharing.
But maybe
sharing of
one
information,
key
right.
talk, presentation, but more opportunity for people to sit and get information from the vendors.
Right.
I think would be wise. But I think to not let it languish, I think the thing to do would be go ahead and have the conversation with I believe it's Wes Winters at the Mizell, and just, hey, we want to pick it up, or do we not want to pick it up?
Right.
And then
See what his position
because
is
it did
and-
cost us a little bit of money,
Right, right.
in the budget, and I think we planned on a few $100s again in the budget. So if it is something and you would like to continue or take that on, then let's bring it back to the commission, and then
Okay.
everybody can say thumbs up. Let's
Okay.
adopt it for 2020.
How about if I try to meet with him before our next
Perfect.
commission meeting, and then I can report back and.
Yeah, I think that's great.
See what his take is on the activity and what the interest is on their part. Okay?
Yep, no,
All
that's
right,
excellent.
I will do that, thank you.
Beautiful. Okay, next we have update from external committees, Desert Highland Gateway Estates Community Association. Do we have an update?
I believe that Commissioner Sandersino went to the last meeting. She told me she was going to be there, so I did not hear anything back from her. I did ask, I think I reported last meeting, I asked Dixie Miller, who is the chair of their board, and to get back with us and let us know if there's anything specific that we can do that they're looking at assistance with. And she said she would do that, and I have not heard back to date. So I'm more than happy to meet with her or meet with the executive committee or whatever it is. And I don't know, Ryan, are you and I going to try to switch off those meetings in
Yeah.
the future? And,
Yeah.
okay, all right. So-
Okay, beautiful. Anything, we don't want to move too far from you, Commissioner Andrade. Housing Homelessness Task Force?
Meeting on the 18th, a couple days from now, right? They have combined with the task force and what is the formal name?
Affordable Housing and Homelessness City Council Standing Subcommittee.
Okay, that. And then I do know, as some of you probably saw, that the council did set aside $100,000 of money that was previously redevelopment money for housing activities. I think that there was a specific idea in the staff report, but it's not cast in concrete yet, is my understanding, that they will figure out and come back to council with how they want to use the money. The initial idea was to subsidize the federal subsidy, the housing voucher, to try to bridge a gap between what the voucher pays and what the owner is actually charging in this community, which is an expensive community. So, is that a fair summation?
That's fair in that it wasn't determined of actually how many vouchers or assistance was needed. It's estimated there's 20.
Right. 20, right.
And whether it's actually a housing shortage in terms of the units being available, or if it is indeed
An affordability
a
issue.
gap, a financial gap.
Right.
And this is an annual allocation, so there wasn't any further discussion as the sustaining it or how.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So there's
Which,
still.
Didn't the preliminary report said like 20 people at about 200 and some odd dollars a month for 1 year?
Yes. That's
And
that's
a
fiscal
concern
year.
that I have is what do you do when the 1 year is over and the safety net's removed and people are still faced with that high rent that they couldn't pay a year ago? So that's a bit of a concern. So I look forward to hearing what is going to happen with the task force meeting and council's decisions, and I will report back.
Excellent.
Do we know the point in time, the counting of how many homeless people there are in Palm Springs? Do we have a number?
I
back from
reached
that?
out to the county last week. I would have anticipated that we have gone viral, that we would have had returns counts much earlier. Still have not received anything.
Nothing.
Okay. Thank you for that. No new update from the Main Street Palm Springs meeting, and now we're on to 1 PS. Commissioner Gross.
Yeah, a couple of three things.
Excuse me. Get my throat going here. The allergies are in the throat as well. Oh, it is on. I think everybody's aware, maybe some people are not, that the leaf blower ordinance meaning basically going forward, is that gasoline-powered leaf blowers are, as of April 1st, technically not allowed, although, key point, enforcement doesn't start till July 1st. But in any case, just putting that out there, particularly, I think there may be some folks we can informally speak with who maybe just don't quite get this. In other words, their role in necessarily telling their yard people and all the rest of it, you need to pay attention. Now, I do know, and I'm very pleased to see there's a strong program over the next 3 months of educating everybody, but in particular yard keepers and landscapers, that kind of a thing. But it's just something generally, as we're out and about, I think it's something to make sure people understand it is coming up. And enforcement will start on the 1st. And I'm not going to have all the details on this, but there is some funding available, as I understand it, for some subsidization of the conversion for folks that need that. I think it's primarily those folks who have a yard business or landscaping business and really have some heavy-duty need to get one of their primary tools upgraded. So that's an information item. Another information item, and well, kind of falls here, and it will also kind of fall in with City Academy. But there are, just for information to kind of underscore why the City Academy concept, I believe, is very important. There are beginning to emerge, I'd say now maybe about 7 or 8 issues related to governance and compliance for some of the neighborhoods that have incorporated and have now become nonprofit entities and have come into these roles or these new structures, these nonprofit structures, not fully realizing their accountabilities, particularly fiduciary accountabilities. The reason I bring it up here is a number of the education things that I think could be done better in the community. It's not just, by the way, the neighborhoods. There are other 501c3s I'm aware of that have these challenges with governance and compliance with the various regulations. One of the things that's important about that program is to be able to have an ongoing program so that people don't get surprised by this. Almost every 1PS meeting, somebody goes, "Oh my God, we didn't realize we were illegal. Are we going to be arrested?" Well, no, we're not going to be arrested. But at the same time, there is liability exposure. And the role for us, I think, conceivably could be, is to be ahead of that game and providing people with the educational support, the awareness, and all the rest of that, so that when they get interested in organizing, they have some sense of what they're getting themselves into. Anyway, so I bring it up for that purpose. And then the last, almost last thing, can send these around. This is just also purely an information thing, but just to give you an idea of what information we get in the 1PS meetings, and also because everybody likes crime stats. Everybody has a different story on crime stats. We get every month in the 1PS meetings a great update from PSPD. This is from PSPD. This is a PSPD report. It's out of the minutes. But I think it's important also for us to help to people to understand what is and what is not real about crime. I pick up a lot of times stuff, and particularly this year, crime is on the rise and burglaries are up and all the rest of that. If you look at these statistics, you'll see it's a pretty steady state. Pretty steady state. And PSPD is reporting to us in 1PS.
Bless you.
The only area, although it is a significant area, where activity is really up, and it's kind of hidden in here because it's included as burglary, but are car break-ins. The one thing that really seems to be, and we've had 2 or 3 in our neighborhood coming up, have been breaking glass and going for convenient items that are left.
What's the car break-in? Sorry.
They would be included under burglary.
Burglary, is it non-residential?
Yeah, non-residential burglary, and you'll see there, and that is the probable cause of that change. But there's a lot more good information you get there. So I guess I'm putting this out here as kind of a teaser.
Cool.
If on your second Thursdays at 8 a.m. you're interested in coming to a 1PS meeting or meetings, they are open to the public and they're a great information resource. We got great reports from David Reddy, from Lisa as the designated council person and/or the mayor, and the mayor often reports, and police and fire. So it is the best venue I've found for overall information. And I've already mentioned there is a need reported into 1PS, and I've already mentioned earlier for volunteers for NUSA, but I already kind of mentioned that. We can jump into that again if we need to a little bit when we get to, well, I guess it's not part of City Academy. I've got my stuff mixed up. So anyway, but we've already had that discussion. So if any of you have that kind of interest, please let me know. I think that's it.
Excellent. And this doesn't include the homicide of January, the largest homicide.
I think that's right. Yes. Well, what month was it?
It says January, but wasn't that on Super Bowl?
Yeah.
It was February, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Was
February, first
February.
Sunday in February.
Yeah, and
First
even
Sunday in
then,
February.
I should have probably noted that because, let's see, these got reported out in our 1PS meetings we just got for last month's meeting. And then in turn, the police department is generally 2 to 3 months behind on the actual dates of the crime. It takes them that long to compile the report. So this may be, this data, good point, is probably more representative of end of year 2018 than anything in 2019 yet. But I can verify that.
Yeah, beautiful. Okay, the Palm Springs Police Department LGBT Outreach Committee. Big thing there was the town hall, third town hall was held on April 2nd. Great turnout of folks at the Mizell Center. The chief was there, was able to address community concerns and questions that pop up. And that's, we have a role in that town hall as a representative from the Human Rights Commission, so that will get repeated again next year, usually February, March is the time frame when that happens. So that will happen again next year, and thanks to the chief and everybody from the police department who participated to make that a big success. The other big thing that came out of the outreach committee, I guess, is the police department's report to city council on Zelda's, and then the subsequent closing of Zelda's, and then the shooting at Toucans, and I think the police department did a great job bringing the issue forward to city council and sharing or allowing city council to act on that. Disappointing that the business decided to close, for good, but that was their choice, and I think the police department did a good job in protecting, not only our citizens but visitors to the community. Public safety they certainly was top of mind with their work on that. So thanks to them. And that's it from the outreach committee. Next up.
Can I just make one comment
Yes.
about that? So, in the news reports for the shooting, I don't think we're all aware of this, but, I think living back in San Francisco, or if you live in New York, there's one city, and then the people that come into the city, you quite frequently hear trash. And I heard that a lot about those trashy people from not Palm Springs, but other communities. I just want us to be aware that trash is everywhere. And I don't think we should necessarily label people as trash. And just because they're from this city or that city doesn't necessarily mean that all those people are. And I hear that quite a bit. Being from San Francisco, if you were across the bridge, it was, scary. Or in Manhattan, it's called B&T, Bridge and Tunnel. And I would just hope that we're a little bit more aware that even though someone doesn't live in Palm Springs, for whatever reason, doesn't mean that they're any less of a person. And then there's violent people or criminals everywhere, not necessarily trashy people from a particular city.
Mm. And we certainly didn't bring that forward to this table in discussion, and I don't believe that language is used in the conversation the report brought to city council either, so I think they were cognizant of that. Okay, excellent, very good. I don't know if we have an update, mediation service?
Not really.
No, not really. I'm in my thinking, and we'll report in a minute a little bit more fully on City Academy. Is that, to me, it feels like that may more appropriately fold into that, as assuming it moves forward. Again, I'll report on that in a minute, but we'll just include them there.
Yeah. Okay. And Dale, are we dropping the ball on, since there has been no real mediation case and issue brought forward that the commission should be handling? Are we dropping the ball because we don't have staffed mediation at the ready, or we don't have training? The extent of what we have, I think, is Jim's training. Should we move forward to enroll Jim in a class, a current class, or I'm just wondering, are we behind in case something does happen? Or do we let it set and see what comes out of the CRV, the working group decisions, and where that goes?
Well, I think there are two distinctly different items. The mediation service, we continue that in the sense of individuals do file complaints, and I have, as a staff person, reviewed those and vetted those, and on occasion have spoken to the city attorney and received direction. But on each case, it's two parties that are willing to come together mutually for mediation. And typically what we have seen is those who have experienced it are the ones that are willing to come forward and try to get some resolution, but those who are being accused are not willing participants. So it pretty much falls out at that point. I have taken a couple items that was more neighborhood or neighbor disputes that were sensitively charged by accusations of sexuality or identity, and the neighborhood association actually got involved to be able to speak with both neighbors. So, I mean, we're not receiving, fortunately, a large amount of requests, but I do agree with you that if it is our desire to remain as offering this service, that we need to gear up and have a number of commissioners trained or retrained to be able to step forward if we're in that situation. The CVRA was a responsibility or a recommendation for the Human Rights Commission to look at the diversity of our boards and commission and to be able to make recommendations, but nothing has formally come forward yet. And that was the discussion we had last month of the possibility of the working group and the council having a joint study session. And we would wait to hear how things would be moving forward. So we've not been communicated as to what our role may be.
Okay.
So acting as mediators, is that our choice as a commission, or it's a requirement that the commission do that?
Actually, it's a part of municipal code. That is the responsibility of the Human Rights Commission. I mean, it clearly identifies what your roles and responsibilities are. We may, if you feel like it's something that we can't adequately staff or volunteer, that we could ask for a revision, or we can look at how other cities, there was one recommendation from council that there's cities that are doing very good at it, and we may want to replicate some of the things they are doing. But our shortfall has been that with the transition of some of our commission members who've had the formal training are no longer on the commission, and we have new members that need to, you know, receive the training, or we decide how to move forward.
The other thing I can add to that, and kind of ties back to it directly ties back to NUSA. A number of the agenda items of the NUSA convention will cover this whole area of bringing dispute resolution and this kind of thing down to the neighborhood or community level. So that's one of a number of reasons why I'm kind of suggesting that there's some good background material for us to glean from those sessions.
If you had looked at the link, I had only seen one session that really coincides with this and the academy. So, I mean, there's many sessions, and they're all over the board. I mean, it's a very educational conference, but it doesn't hone in specifically on human rights or mediation. I mean, they touch us upon it, but you have a myriad of other sessions that are very informative. But the link gives you the entire rundown.
The whole rundown. And yes, and that's also my assessment, except part of what the thinking is. At this point, it's only a concept. As you just reported, it's not yet a formalized proposal. I'm hoping it gets there. But the thought is to try and head off some of these problems at the pass, if you will, before they ever need to even get to mediation. How do we get down to the roots of what are positive community relations generally, and not just necessarily when a dispute comes up? So it's kind of in that frame I'm referring to the broader program, and even that's the tie back to the City Academy, is to try and get some of those tools in place in the community, and they're kind of working these issues when they're just seed issues as opposed to blooming into a full-level dispute. People are pissed off and all of that good stuff.
Well, it just seems that it's a responsibility that we are not prepared. I mean, I couldn't mediate. I don't know how to mediate something like that. And maybe Jim is the only one that can do it.
Well, also too, I haven't actually had the formal mediation training that has been brought up. I know what it is, though. Suzanne Spencer, who was one time, not Suzanne Spencer, that's Mizell. Hello, you'll meet Suzanne. Suzanne
Reynolds.
No, in vacation rental. Who?
Severin.
Thank you, Suzanne
Reynolds
Severin.
Severin.
Former member of this commission. First of all, that's a skill she's had for years. It's part of her professional portfolio, and she has had that training, and she and I have chatted frequently about that. The good news is I think any of us, myself included, would benefit from the training. What I know from Suzanne is that it's a 1 or 2 day kind of thing sponsored by Riverside County, and I'm not even sure there's a charge for it. So it's getting prepared to mediate, and I think part of the training we'll do is kind of differentiate the levels of mediation between. There's a level of mediation which is tied into legal process and all of that, and da 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 da. This is not that. This is mediation in terms of resolving disputes before they become, hopefully, full-blown legal disputes. And I think that's the skill, the interpersonal skill, of helping people have the right dialogue, particularly, as you pointed out, Jay, if both parties are willing to do it.
Yeah.
But another reason for City Academy is to avoid getting into a trap of where everybody, both sides need to agree. How about, basically heading it off before there has to be this kind of formal standoff kind of thing, at least in my thinking.
And mediation is something that the commission has been charged with almost from the very beginning. It hasn't been an issue with us, like Dale had said. He's handled the what's come forward, and it hasn't been something that has had to come to the level of us actually having to get behind. So we would have been addressing it last year if it was an issue. My question to Dale was, should we be thinking forward to be prepared, because we don't have the training, and we should have 1 or 2 people that can participate in the training, in my opinion, so we've got that expertise here in case the door is opened and something does elevate beyond what Dale may take care of, and then we are asked to sit in mediation. Just to be prepared. The fact that it hasn't happened for 2.5 years or however long it's been, it doesn't mean it can't not happen in the next 12 months coming forward. So it just at what point do we make that call to get prepared, because we don't have the skill around the table? So if there's anybody interested, I would say let's get the information and do whatever we need to do to send an interested commissioner, just so we've got it. We've got the experience around the table.
I actually have been through the training and participated a little bit in my career. It's not as daunting as it seems.
Yeah.
It's really just a facilitation of a mutual, and like you said, people have to be willing to give a little and take a little, and but it's not binding. It's not arbitration. No one is held to the outcome. It's still, it's just really, I think, a service that you provide to try to flesh out some possibilities for conflict resolution.
Exactly right.
So.
Mm-hmm. Okay, gets us into a good position to move forward to item C, committee structure, standing, and ad hoc, of which mediation committee is one of the core items from the Community Development Committee. So the conversation is, we've had this back and forth on the agenda since our retreat to address our committee structure and maybe help us be better aligned and have a better sense of direction as to what the commission is doing, and that maybe our committees as we have them are pretty spread out and not focused back on what the organization was created for and established. So there's 8 committees that were established originally in the rules and guidelines that were sent out. There's been conversation for some time as to, do we look at those committees and give them an update and adopt those titles again, and get rid of the ones that may be dated, and go forward like we don't operate with the executive committee, which would probably be a good thing that we do, so we have commissioner in training for leadership, so when the election opportunity comes up that you've got other folks around the table that may want to step up to the chairship or vice chairship, that with the executive committee, we're actually giving an opportunity for other commissioners around the table to be part of the monthly planning process. So I think the executive committee certainly is a good thing, but we brought it, or we had it it came out of conversation last month to bring it back to the agenda this month. So depending on what the feedback is around the table, we can either have continued discussion on it, we can move on it, or we can be silent on it for months to come. Any comments, thoughts, ideas, suggestions? And it's very odd of Mr. Gross not to have a comment.
Ron, I would just say that I wasn't at the last month's meeting, but I did read this before today, and I think a lot of the suggestions make sense in combining some of these roles and responsibilities here. So as it's structured now and as it is recommended, I mean, personally, my thoughts are that I support it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Any other thoughts? Commissioner Morgan?
That's good.
To go back to the roots looks good.
I actually like what's presented here. I think it's clear.
Yeah, so this is back. This is going back to the origin. This is going back to the rules and guidelines, and it still needs to be freshened. It's still, this Commissioner Andrade spent a little bit of time to put her thoughts on paper. So even this still needs to get freshened. But I think the core idea, big picture, was what are those core subcommittees? What are those core committees? What should they be? So then we can have a better focus as a commission. And I think what we would have to do if everybody feels good about the way that these are combined is that as we go forward, let's address Community Development Mediation Committee. Are those duties as defined in the 1990 document still current and valid today? And if they're not, then let's redefine it as to what is, current for today, and make the language fresh and applicable to 2019, 2020.
This is suggested.
Yeah.
Yes, because the only thing that's the change that we would maybe need to talk about is number 5, right? And number 6 and 7 are combined. Number 5 we'd be taking off. Did we decide that that's no longer?
It's just the idea the only idea that's been brought forward yet.
And plus combining 6 and 7.
Yeah, so combine 6 and 7 to do the Cultural Affairs Committee, which would be a big committee, and the getting rid of the Women Affairs and Gay and Lesbian Committee. So this is just a suggestion based off of the original rules and guidelines.
And I thought that this was actually something that we were going to talk about as, okay, what are we not doing on here? And if we're not going to do it, then we need to obviously make adjustments and changes.
I think this was just a summary of the rules and the committees and the rules and guidelines as to what would those committees look like today. I don't think, Cherry, I don't think you addressed each specific task and function.
No.
No, I didn't think that this would, I thought once this came together, as is right now, that now our next process would be to say, okay, what are we not covering in here? Like
got it.
Meditation, mediation, that's one thing. There's certain cultural populations that we're not reaching out to. I mean, there's a lot of things on here, as when the founding commissioner, I'm sorry, I can't remember his name, of the HRC. When he actually came and talked about a lot of these things, we thought, wow, we're not even doing that. I mean, our missions kind of changed. So I thought this was actually going to focus us. So we now concentrate and say, okay, who is actually working on this?
Yeah. Okay.
Such as mediation.
Yeah.
Well, I do want to point out, no matter what we call the committee, there's only 9 of us, and there's only so much work that can get done. So if the suggestion is that we take our current committees and put them in the appropriate ones from the original, that's fine. But the same amount of people are going to do the same amount of work, so.
Right. Maybe I'm sorry if I'm not understanding, but I thought this was like to refocus us. So like the committees that we're meeting right now, we're on the finance and we're on the outreach and marketing. Now we need to actually put those into these, but we need to make sure there's a lot of things on here we're not touching. I mean, in the last almost 2 years that we're not working on. You know, and I said in a couple meetings that I wanted to outreach the Hispanic and Native American committee, neighborhoods, because I don't think we're doing that. When we saw the original document, I thought, wow, there's a lot of people we're not reaching out to. We're not reaching out to religious organizations. I mean, there's just, as you said, there's only 9 of us, but is this what we're going to do, is take those existing committees, put them in here, and even though we're marketing and outreach, we now have a few other things that we're supposed to tackle? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Well, the other thing that's been floated, I don't think we've ever landed on a decision. My sense, well, first of all, yeah, Terry, I really like the document a lot, and it reflects, in some ways, what I'm about to say, which is I thought we kind of had a consensus of sorts that number 1, 2, and 3 would kind of be long-term standing committees of the commission. And then any other committees, while they wouldn't necessarily have an absolute sunset date, they wouldn't necessarily be standing, but they would be more as needed, although, you know, not like a task force, which has an absolute sunset. So that may be one way of slicing things, Nikki, as you're describing it. That might be one way. The other thing, too, that I think we can do once we've landed on a structure we really like, maybe we should then, once we have our committee leadership, is solicit volunteers not only from the commission itself, but perhaps other interested participants in the community who would want to be a contributing resource. Because unless there is a reason, Dale, I'm unaware of course there's a formal appointment process for the actual commission itself. But for some of these committees that might have supporting members, whatever we choose to call them, I don't believe that would run afoul of any of the city ordinance requirements or any other legal requirement. That may be one way of addressing the human resource issue.
I think that's a brilliant idea if we can do that, because, you know, one of the things looking in the original document, all the groups that we're supposed to reach out to, was like we'd all have to do like 20 groups. And I don't know how many meetings that you can go to extra every month, but it was a lot of meetings. So that would be a really cool idea if we're doing, say, like the Cultural Affairs Committee, instead of me or one of the other commissioners having to go so many, maybe we have a time where we invite someone from the church, from the synagogue, from the Native American, we invite all these people to come together because, again, we're trying to represent as many people as possible. There's just no way that we can, as 9 commissioners, capture everybody.
Right.
Great idea.
Well, the commission does that, I mean, just within some of your activities now. I mean, you invite expertise and to participate. You don't have a formal title for them, but they're engaged in interacting with you on specific topics or specific programs. So, I mean, you have that to your advantage.
Exactly.
Right. And the idea to me when I authored this was to try to just have like a couple of large umbrellas and to move things under those instead of, you know, somebody like for instance, every single meeting we have like the master calendar or something like that. So maybe you don't report on that unless there's something that happened or whatever, and it's within this structure. I think it just streamlines it. You don't even have to really appoint. I mean, I think the committee involvement in terms of who's on the committee can really rotate and float, depending on what activity you're taking on. Because as you mentioned, we can't do it all. We can't have all of these things going on all the time. So we're picking and choosing within this structure what we're going to be doing, and I think people's involvement would also change depending on the task at hand. So it wasn't really, I mean, like you said, Ron, maybe we aren't even going to do some of these things, but they're mentioned in the event that we might And if the commission sees a reason to take this on, and that's why we were asking at the picnic, you know, what would you like to see the commission address? And, you know, we got housing, particularly, that, you know, there isn't any, and it's, what there is too expensive. Well, you know, I don't know what our influence would be in that area, but, you know, you ask people, right? The first thing we got and the last thing we got was the transgender community, that they don't feel that there's enough focus on their rights or lack thereof. So that's what I was kind of trying to do, was to say, you know, that those things might ebb and flow depending on, you know, what do people want us to address? What do we feel that we need to address as an organization that we can actually, you know, make some headway on, and not just a lot of talk and discussion. So that's kind of what it was. So it won't hurt, if you don't like this, won't hurt my feelings, promise.
Yeah, I do, and I think it's still, to Ron's point and David's, that it still has some revision that we can keep doing. That we can keep doing.
Definitely, yeah.
So at the end of the day, I think, will it help us have better focus with these core umbrella committees? Or do we keep it on the shelf and continue using the Desert Highland Gateway Estates Association as this title that's being used to reach out to one particular community? Or, you know, do we, you know, is it going to help us bring focus to go back this direction? Or do we stay with what we've got? Is there a thumbs up to go to the umbrella titles?
Yes, I would say so.
Okay.
Right, well, couldn't we always change it if it doesn't work?
Yeah.
I mean, you know, it's, we'll try it, we'll see if it works, we'll see if it meets our needs, and if it doesn't, then we'll go back and revisit it.
Yeah.
Okay. And certainly under the umbrella concept, some of the more specific items we have as active right now, Desert Highlands being an example,
Right.
could easily fit under where's the community outreach?
It's community development. I
Community development, it
Yeah.
could land there. So that
Or
becomes.
no, cultural affairs.
Or cultural
Sorry.
affairs. Well,
It's cultural affairs.
so it wouldn't be so much that it wouldn't exist, so much as it would be within
It's relocated.
that structure.
Yeah. The only downfall I see, and I think the forefathers and mothers had a lot of insight by using specific names and titles, because when the name is used and it's publicly stated, then there's a focus on that name. And the fact that we won't be using lesbian, we won't be using women, means that the focus isn't there. The folk that we're not using African American, we're not using Native American, we're not using Hispanic, we're not using transgender. It won't be there. So what's important publicly and for people to see and for perception is that this commission is addressing the needs of these very specific communities, and they're not invisible. So that would be my only thing, is as we clarify the definition, maybe we do add the specific community name back in there, and we use that specific language of women's groups, women's issues, and the transgender community. That those words are used in our documents somewhere.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, somewhat more generically, because I know in the original document, I mean, they tried to spell out every organization, every church, every social service agency, and you know that's ripe for omission, right? I mean, it just is. So I agree with you. I think generically, or we could say yes, it's women's rights, it's lesbian rights, it's gay rights, it's transgender, whatever it is. Religious versus every church in the community, or every synagogue, or every mosque, or whatever. Right, religious faith community. I think, that's the.
Maybe you and I can work together to put the next agenda together under these. So Dale and I will try to
Test it out.
mold the umbrella terms or committees with what we currently have, and it's a starting point. Yeah.
Well, as the newest member, I think it's a good start. I think it's a good guideline for me. I'm still learning, and I appreciate all your feedback and help getting me on the right track. I did look at number 7, where it says seniors, veterans, and people with disabilities. If you start with seniors, then it could be that senior could be a veteran. It could be a veteran with disabilities. So it encompasses whole lot of things other than just 3 categories. I mean, it's the first senior could include the other 2 categories. That senior could be a veteran. That veteran could be a person with disabilities, because I've seen it with the American Legion. So that's all I wanted to say. But this paper here helps me out a lot.
I think it's a good idea to make each committee as generic as possible or as broad as possible. And then can we have subcommittees underneath the main category? So for example, community development is a large umbrella, and we can put mediation services underneath that umbrella. That's the only thing that bothers me about this. I have no problem with executive committee, community development, but to Glenn's point, you know, when we start getting specific, it should be people with disabilities committee, not seniors, veterans, putting them in the bucket there. So that's my only input, is to be as generic as possible. That's how I would edit this older document.
Yeah. To be generic, but still to give the communities that are being discussed a voice.
An identity.
So
right.
to have an absence of the word veterans would be a mistake. And there's gay, there's lesbian, there's transgender veterans, there's senior veterans, there's young veterans. You know,
There's a lot of crossover.
But it's the emphasis. It's the emphasis that the commission is making to particular marginalized groups within the community, that they don't, those voices don't get lost. So, excellent. Well, we'll work on that. It's been a work in progress, and it will continue, and I appreciate everybody's willingness to let it continue to be a work in progress. Item D, City Academy update. What do we have an update, Commissioner Gross?
We've hit already, and so I don't think I need to go over them again. We have all 3 kind of
relatively specific points. But the general point, as Dale reported out at the last meeting, and there has not, Dale, unless you've heard of a change, but I don't think you have because you've already addressed it earlier, is my understanding is we're waiting on council to have what I think is, at least what I think is my understanding, a final kind of study session with the existing CVRA and see where that leaves, with the intent, and I think I'm seeing words to this, with the intent of how the role of the commission would be a part of that. So I'm detecting is there's a sense that there is still real agreement that there is something there that should be a part of or with the commission. In my view, it's kind of like almost a handoff. But we're waiting for that, and I've not heard anything further on that either directly from council members, which would be Jeff Coors or Cindy or Cindy Christie, hello, or from Udale or anybody else. I just haven't seen anything else. I haven't seen it on council agendas either.
Yeah.
So I think that's all there is.
I think, and we have you as the appointed liaison, so that continues to go forward. So with whatever we hear,
yeah,
you know, we'll look to you to bring it forward to us.
Yeah.
As they move forward and whatever pace they are moving forward, you know, you're still our point person there, so we'll look to you to give us that update. Item E, 44th Annual Neighborhood USA Conference. So we brought this up with the possibility of getting 2 tickets, and 2 commissioners have indicated that they would be interested in attending if we had those 2 tickets. Is there anybody else that would be interested? Because if not, I would like to get the consensus that if we have 2 tickets, and Jim, if you can follow up with Denise Goolsby on that you just take care of everything with you and Nikki, and the 2 of you could be the representatives from the commission in attendance.
I'd be interested in a volunteer position if you have one.
Absolutely. That part of that conversation, that should be part of that.
Who's coordinating volunteers? Do you know?
Well, Denise at the very top, and then she's got 4 or 5 people she's working with in ONEPS itself And so I think the best thing to do is actually, as part of conveying that, Nikki and I would be glad recipients of those passes, is also, and by the way, we have Terry and any other name who might want to volunteer, and I can put a little whisper in the ear saying, and by the way, it might be nice.
Okay,
I think it's
beautiful.
probably already in the plan that volunteers would get some accommodation here.
Yeah. So is everybody in favor of going that direction? I see heads.
Yes.
Okay, we're good. So please take that, Jim. You don't need to bring it back to us. You handle it, especially since it's May 15th through May 18th.
And if
Okay?
anybody else gets an itch to be a volunteer, let me know.
Now we're on to F, topical newsworthy items. We've talked about an awful lot. Commissioner Flood, do you have any topical newsworthy items?
I just remembered, well, 2 Fridays ago, I guess, there was a Stop Hate type of meeting or conference. It was the church from Agilon Baptist Church and the, what is it, the synagogue on, what's the name of the synagogue? Temple Isaiah. They had a meeting. I went there because I was just interested in it, and it was a good turnout. The mayor was there, and Jeff Kors and some others, and it was a good turnout. And so they indicated that they would like to do more of those. They wanted more people there. It didn't fill the house. It was a big synagogue there. So, but I think that's just one thing to keep in mind. If the churches and other faith communities want to do something like that, we might just be aware of that. Just Stop Hate thing. And that was set up before the New Zealand situation.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all I have right now.
Okay, coming around the table.
Well, I want to congratulate our chair, Ron DeHart, for his honoring, his honoree at the Food Samaritans. Gee, I can't even talk.
Easy for you
But
to say.
congratulations, Ron.
Yes, thank
Well
you.
deserved.
Yeah, it was a very nice surprise. Thank you.
Nothing at this time.
Yeah, me either.
No, very good. Okay, agenda items that we need to add for the next meeting. Do we have anything?
We have the suggested movie screening for this coming year.
Yes, most importantly, I think for us to put a lot of ideas out there about what communities we want to partner with, and to have a good discussion about it, and then hopefully vote and choose one so our subcommittee can get working on that aspect of it. And then the other thing is to remind everybody to give Ryan and I input about what do you think the extra funds, now it's 600 instead of, because we put 400 towards the Harvey Milk sponsorship, what you think we should spend that on, what could help us the most as a commission.
Mm-hmm.
And that could be on the agenda, right?
It is.
Okay.
Okay. I didn't have anything else for agenda, other than I do want to strongly encourage everybody to, if you're able to attend the milk breakfast, you know, what has happened in a couple years is we get a full house, and then the table drops off, and then we're scrambling to invite people, and we've done really well inviting people in the years past, but I think if you can, put a serious date on your calendar so Dale knows, and we can count you as a real seat. And if not, then we know we could extend an invitation now to different community members to sit at our table instead of coming across that we're doing it late in the game.
And we're going to communicate those to Dale, right?
Yeah. Yes, correct? You're going to help with that? Okay. So if we can, please do that. And, at least if we do invite folks, it's not going to look, like it was a last-minute invitation, going out to the community. And some of the elderly folks that we've invited aren't necessarily in positions where they're responding immediately, and it takes time. And, so just we need time and to be able to do that.
Well, it's a really wonderful event. It was so great last year, and I volunteer to absolutely be there and greet any guests we may have. But I just agree we should plan in advance and if we give away tickets to deserving community members, and I will entertain them while we're there, although not much entertaining needed. It's such a wonderful event.
Ron, is there a headliner speaker yet identified for the breakfast?
Not yet.
Not yet.
It's coming.
I figured it.
It's coming. Yeah. Okay, very good. Then I think we are done with agenda items and announcements. We will adjourn at 4:34 to a regular adjourned meeting Monday, May 13, 2019 at 3 p.m. here in the large conference room at City Hall. Thank you all.
A perfect world would be a clean ocean with no plastic in it. The problem is that we are killing our sea turtles and have not been caring, but we need to start. Turtles are dying because of plastic, but if we don't stop, then our oceans will just be big bodies of water with plastic in them and nothing else. You can help solve the problem by getting a reusable cup and drinking without the straw. For more information, visit Plastic Pollution Coalition.